But welcome, excuse me. My name is Mac McFarland, and I'm a project manager here with RAC, the Regional Arts and Culture Council. And I'm joined here today by two of my colleagues, Kristen Calhoun, also with RAC, the Director of Public Art, and Wendy Given, who is with the Port of Portland and is the Arts Manager with the Port. And so, yeah, we're gonna spend a little time running through a slide presentation for the suspended artwork. Sorry, I'm just looking at see there's some questions. The suspended artwork RFQ that we have out, it is just an RFQ, not a proposal at this time. And yeah, and then there'll be time for questions that we will do through the Q&A. You'll see there at the bottom part of your screen a little Q&A with some talk bubbles, and you can click into that and put your questions in there at any time, and we'll either answer them live or answer them inside of that text box. But without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and take a swig of water and get this going. Okay, I assume everybody's able to see this slide show. Great, well, here we go. And yeah, so as I said, here to talk about the suspended artwork here with the Port and with you all. This is a view of what the airport will look like at the end of 2024, early 2025. And this is a view from the backside of the airport. And actually, if we were, if the artwork were up, you would be able to see the artwork from this backside in these two nodes here. So it's kind of an interesting view. So the artwork will be have some natural light on it coming from this large piece of glass back here that is the concourse connector. Is this need to cooperate? Oh, there it goes. So yeah, so yes, this is the general area we're going to talk about. We'll look at some other images of it and kind of get a better sense. This is actually just a small portion of the area, in fact, in this picture. So, and this is the entry to the corridor. Also, Kristen and Wendy, jump in at any time if you want to add anything or something that I'm missing. And so, yes, this is the entry to that corridor, as you can see down here in the smaller map of the sort of layout of the full the terminal core. And we'll see some more images of it as we go along. You'll notice here, this is a case for rotating artwork that will be on both sides. So yeah, suspended artwork. There are two sites that you probably already know about and that we'll be looking into. And these are located on the north and south ends of the concourse connector, and they're situated above the pavilions. You'll really be able to see them coming towards them. The zones are about 100 feet long and about 10 feet wide, and you'll see there's some softness to that in terms of it could bleed out a bit here and there. You know, and things will have to be up off the ground from the floor about 15 feet. And then there's, you know, the sort of information about some of the weight that's right now the sort of load bearing for that area. So a little bit about RAC. RAC is a independent nonprofit that contracts with the city of Portland and Multnomah County and other counties and other entities like the Port of Portland to do public art programming. We do grants funding, we do advocacy and education. We are also a resource for many artists in the community. So the Port has, we've partnered with the Port for many, many years, and we're really excited about continuing that. The Port of Portland, of course, is the organization that is the really port district that's responsible for all of the marine activities and the international airport and other aviation components within the city. And this is an image of the airport from the outside. This is the big canopy that's out there that was also designed by ZGF Architects, who is working on this new terminal core redo. This canopy was also built by Hoffman Construction Company, and the new project is being built by Hoffman Skanska, which is a joint venture between those two firms. And I would be remiss not to mention the Portland Airport carpet, so beloved in our city that these Portland Trailblazers City Edition jerseys this year actually feature the carpet right on the front and also on the legs. So it's kind of an interesting time that they've chosen to do that. And so the Port has had a art program going for many years now, and we're really excited to be continuing that partnership with them in this latest RFQ, in this latest round of public artworks going in. And you'll see here, this is the Port's art program goals. So the Port is really looking to represent artists of diverse races and genders, geographic origins, ethnicities, and ways of being, with the purpose of advancing fair and equitable inclusion. You know, they're really hoping to incorporate a variety of artistic approaches and mediums, materials, and aesthetics. The work should reflect the region's creativity and cultural wealth. And you'll see that doesn't mean that the artist needs to come from the region to do that. And the work should respond to the airport's environment in consideration of design architectural factors and features supporting the general character of the Port and PDX. And the artwork should also, of course, be made of durable materials and easily maintained. These things will be around for a long time, and we want to make sure that they are built to last. So a couple of examples of artworks that have recently gone up at the Port, up being the operative word perhaps for this one. This is an artwork from Jacob Hashimoto that was installed in 2020 called The City in the Sky. And this is in Concourse E, and it's actually in two parts, and it's made of thousands of individual kites that are then suspended from the ceiling on these rods. And you can see it's actually, like I said, it's in two kites. So this is the first formation, and then there's another formation here. This is, as I said, in Concourse E, and this had a budget of $600,000, and actually came in at a higher value based on Jacob's reputation and the work he put into it. So this is a really exciting new work in the airport that's you know, kind of nestled in. It's really amazing to come across this piece because it is, you know, it's really, it's not like the current the current suspended artwork RFQ, which is really, it's still post-security, but it's going to be much more visible for everybody. And then another recent project at the Port is this work from Ryan Feddersen, Inhabitants, from installed in 2021. This is in Concourse B. And up here in the top left, this is from the mezzanine level looking down at this long wood wall that Ryan designed that you then see details of in the lower portion of this slide. And then you can also see these planters up here at the top with these eyes looking down and these lenticular clouds. These are also lenticulars, it's very sort of low technology lenticular of two slats of images where you walk by and the eye transforms into a landscape. This work has really been beautifully incorporated into the architecture of Concourse B. It's a really exciting project, and if you haven't had a chance to see it, I would definitely check it out if you're coming through. And so this had a budget of $650,000. So here we are again. This is back to looking at our site. So we'll kind of get into this a little bit more in a minute so you can see it in context a bit more, but where we are is this is the sort of end of security. So these people are, the kind of final check that's happening. This person maybe forgot their water bottle in their luggage and had to dump it out, and this nice TSA agent is just letting him repack up here. And then this area is the recomposure area. So this is where, after you get back, you might sit on this bench and put on your shoes, or just have a moment after dealing with TSA. And then we see where this pink dotted line is the sort of general area where the suspended work will go. And this is the sort of overview of that area. Again, this is the TSA queue. This is where actually the glass art works will be. That RFQ call ends tomorrow. And then once you pass through the security is where these suspended works will be. Now you see we have the sort of dotted lines representing the kind of very fixed area, but then there's this sort of pink line, or this pink shaded area, and that's the kind of flexible zone where the work might spread out into some of those areas. I'm just kind of zooming in a little bit on that just so you can see a little bit better maybe what that is. And actually I'm going to skip ahead one more slide to this view. So this is sort of ripping the roof off and a bit of a different kind of look at this. For those of you who've been to the airport, this is where that canopy was and where you come in. So you'll be very familiar with that, and you'll see that the ticket counters, which are currently in a line across, get turned to this orientation, and you'll flow through the ticket lines this way, passing through this area, which you'll see in the map here. Here's the ticket hall. This is referred to as the seam. And this is the kind of like space between the ticket hall and then the market hall and the TSA. So you'll see that here. These are the Y columns that are holding up the roof. So they look sort of strange in this rendering because they're not holding anything up, but you can imagine them going up into this beautiful roof, which we have some images of. Again, the security lines passing through TSA and then coming out here to where the suspended artworks will be on either side. You'll see this airport is very symmetrical, which is why there's a call for a single artist to do these two artworks that we see as an opportunity to have them speaking with each other. Somebody passing through the concourse connector here will be able to experience both artworks. A passenger who isn't would only experience one of them at this time. Just to give you a sense of the scale of this map that we're looking at, several football fields wide here. Or if you're here in Portland and have been to Pioneer Courthouse Square, you can see that Pioneer Courthouse Square fills just the sort of smallest part of that. So here we are with all of the details. And again, some of these images are not as a part of the RFQ, but all of this textual information is a part of the RFQ. So yeah, we are hoping to find 2 large-scale works that will be suspended from the ceiling in these areas, and really hoping that as people come out of this security and come to this, that there will be this kind of moment of like, oh wow, look at that, that you experience as you're kind of getting ready to go then towards your gates.
And Matt,
Oh, please.
Sorry, I was just going to say, once you're post-security, so you can go through the concourse connector in order to see and experience both sides of this artwork.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so, it's really the hope that this will, also provide a bit of a kind of wayfinding, like, oh yes, let's go towards there, or let's meet underneath those kites, if you were in Concourse E. So those types of moments are part of what we're looking for. And as I said, you can see this, it's not just a glass hallway, but the glass really extends up to this second level as well. So there will be a fair amount of natural light coming in through the skylights here too. These will be living trees. So it's going to be a pretty stunning site.
Matt, excuse me.
Yeah.
There was a question where the north is. If you could show folks which is north and which is south of the two, please.
So,
thank you.
Yeah. So correct me if I'm wrong. But this, I believe, is the north side, and then this is the south side.
It's actually the reverse.
It's the reverse.
I believe.
That's why.
So the left is south, the right is north.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry,
and there's another question, Mac. It says, given the scale and the fact that the budget includes installation, so assuming the project teams were installing themselves, what permits are required, if any? Would a structural engineer need to be an integral part of our team, or could we hire that person after the project is awarded? So I would say you could definitely hire your engineer after the project is awarded. Yeah. And in terms of what permits are required, that is a really good question. I don't have a clear answer to that, but what we will do is we will take that question and we will get a clearer answer, and we will post it into the document that we have that is kind of a running document of questions and answers. So we will, I'm going to write that down.
And Heather, I would also say, if you wanted to use the question portal to ask that question about the permits, you would then get an email response directly. So that might be the best way to track that in terms of the permitting. But yes, we wouldn't require any structural engineer to be a part of the team, but assume that will be a part of the process of the design process. Back to this.
And Mac, there was another question that came into the panelists that asks, is it 100 feet on each side or 100 feet total?
It's 100 feet on each side.
Yeah,
on each side.
Exactly. Yeah. So this zone here, yeah, is 100 feet.
And while the building is symmetrical, we don't expect the artwork to be mirrored or symmetrical unless the artist desires it to be.
So this question is this then facing west, this window? And I do believe that is true, right? Because the mountain is behind. So
yeah,
that is the east.
That's right. That's right.
Correct.
So, and just, to kind of remind everybody of the schedule, the applications will be due December 6th at 11:59. We will then get together and figure out who we'll be inviting, and we'll make those invitations in January 2023, assuming that we would hopefully be able to bring artists in February, but possibly, of course, March, depending on schedules. And that after that, we would select an artist and enter into a design development phase in the winter of 23. With fabrication hopefully starting in that spring and summer of 23 and installing the spring of the following year, 2024. There's a question, amount of time allocated for design development. So if the design development, if the artist is selected in, say, March of 2023, then design development could be, you know, about 6 months, 8 months, somewhere in that time frame, I'm presuming. So eligibility, this is open to artists living in the United States and internationally. And of course, RAC staff, the selection panel, the Port of Portland employees and their immediate families are not eligible to apply.
Mac, I'm gonna drop a link into the chat. So there's someone asking a question about, could you give me more insights about what to submit by December 6th? That's all in the portal. It's very specific and in the call. So I'll put a link there so that you can see exactly what that is.
Christine, I think we'll get to this question about the finalists in the proposal here in a minute. So again, just looking at those sites. So yeah, these are the 100-foot long areas. And then this is, you know, the kind of 10 feet, but then this is the kind of, you know, again, where it gets a little soft and where things could spill out depending on the design and the work. So again, just looking at that view. And then these are just some images of the airport. Some of these chat windows so I can see a bit better. So yes, so this is looking from the ticket hall through that seam I was telling you about towards the market hall. This, you would not see the suspended artwork from this vantage point. This is pre-security. And again, this is looking into that zone a little bit further to the right. Now you can see these Y columns that are suspending, that are holding up this amazing wood ceiling. And just another view of that kind of seam wall. Ticketing is here to the left. And these really lovely designed openings up to the skylights here, providing the natural light for these trees.
So there's a question here. Is there any sense of what sort of air movement might happen in these corridors, such as placement of ventilation? That is an excellent question. I would love to have you put that in the question portal, and we can answer it there. I don't know that they've done any modeling on that yet, but we can definitely talk to the architects and find out, you know, what they know.
Yeah, and there'll be more drawings and things that become available to the finalists as well. So
Right.
At this stage, you know, the panel will really just be looking at past works and your statement and really imagining what you might create for this site. And then once those folks are selected to that next phase, then there'll be a lot more kind of like detailed architectural drawings that become available for that. So again, just the kind of overview of everything. And again, this is all language that is in the RFQ, so no surprises here. Just trying to reiterate the due date, the budget, and the goals. And then in terms of the applying for this project, we are asking folks to submit these 3 things, or really 4 things. A statement of interest in 2,000 characters or less, explaining why this project is of interest to you. Describe how your previous works address site and similar goals stated in the project, and address how you and your artistic practice connects to or aligns with the Port's social equity policy. And include descriptions of how you have worked with design and construction teams, or other comments that might be helpful to really elucidate your process and your artistic endeavors to the committee. So yeah, do not submit a proposal for the commission at this time. It's really, this is an opportunity for you to share your interest in the project, and speak to how your practice and you as an individual values connect to the Port's social equity policy, and we'll have a look at that in a moment. And then we're going to ask for a 2-page resume that includes 2 professional references in that resume. And you can, of course, if you're working with the teams, you can add resumes for each of your team members. And then for the images, you can, so you're able to upload images for 10 past projects. Each project will give you an opportunity to include 2 images. So 10 past artworks, 2 images each for 20 images total. There's an opportunity there to put in a location, a brief description. There's also an area there for budget. You know, if it's an artwork that, you know, wasn't in a specific location, nor had a commission, you know, that the budget is really not relevant, you can just put 0 for the budget and NA for location. Just making sure there's not some more questions here.
There's another question, Mac. Is there any possibility for an interactive component such as a controller kiosk that lives on the ground or is mounted to a wall? I wouldn't say that that's out of the realm.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not something we've contemplated specifically, but we haven't, nobody has said no. So we will put that in the questions and get a little more answer to that.
Yeah. And then given this case.
That's there's a repeat question.
Yeah, Heather, we'll just say that answer again in case you missed it, that you don't need a structural engineer as part of your team, that'll be something that kind of comes out that can be a part of the design development process. Yeah. And if you're interested in the permitting questions, we're not entirely sure at this time. We've taken a note of that, but if you want directly to know when that happens, what the answer to that question is, please use the question portal, because that'll allow me to email you directly that answer. Otherwise, we'll circle back with the port on that, and then we'll post it onto that kind of question response page that has been filling up. Yes, so you can submit a total of 20 images. It's really 10 past artworks, and then each artwork allows you to submit 2 images. So you can include a detail or a different view. You know, and really it's up to you. I mean, you could, of course, you know, use 4 images for one artwork using 2 slots of your 10 past artworks, right?
And earlier today, through the question portal, we had a question about using composite images. Those are allowed, and we would advise people to use them very sparingly, because they are kind of fatiguing for the reviewers to try to decipher, you know, when you've spliced together a number of different views. So you can use them, but I would advise using them sparingly.
So I'm just going to go through this criteria, and then we're definitely going to talk about the process after for the proposal phase, which there isn't really a proposal phase, it's an interview phase. But so the selection criteria will be, the selection committee is really going to use this 100-point system for the process of reviewing the RFQs. And I'm just going to walk through this, and then I'm going to talk through these different categories that are here. So artistic vibrancy of past work. So this is going to be those up to 20 images, 10 artworks that you share. And that will be a 30-point system. And we're going to be looking for the artistic vibrancy of the past work submitted. And I'm going to talk about what we mean by artistic vibrancy in just a moment. And then the statement of interest to include your own interest, as well as the connection and alignment to the port's social equity policy, which I will also review in a moment. And then based on the past work submitted and your statement of interest, the ability to create an impactful work for PDX. And then we'll be looking to see what work you've done with design teams or construction teams in the past, or other kinds of collaborations, to get a sense of how you might work with a design and construction team. And then finally, how does your artistic practice, past works statement reflect the port's art program goals? And how can we see that in them? So, artistic vibrancy, this is what we'll be using to look at the images through this lens. This is always a very hard process. It's always challenging to try to put words and numbers or grades to an artistic practice, to an artwork. And yet it's something that as an educator, I've wrestled with for years, and within the process of selecting public art, it's also something that we're always refining, and this is something that we've come up with, a kind of amalgamation of many other kind of best practices we've seen out in the field. And so we're going to be looking at the past submissions to see how it might demonstrate an integrity of process, how it embodies excellence of craft and skill, how it demonstrates imagination, distinctiveness, and originality, how it contributes to an artistic practice, so to your own practice, how it engages with the diversity and complexity of contemporary life, and how it is relevant in a local, national, and global context. So that will be the way we are looking at the images. And then in terms of the port social equity policy, let me go back, sorry. That is the Port of Portland social equity policy promotes social equity using a racial equity focus with the purpose of advancing fair and equitable inclusion and creating the conditions in which all people can participate, prosper, and achieve equitable outcomes with respect to the port's employment, businesses, and services. There were some questions last info session about this, and how one might go about this. Of course, not every artist is making artwork that overtly speaks to an identity politic or to social concerns. Of course, I think that there are a lot of ways that abstractions and other forms and methodologies of artistic practice can speak to these areas. And really, it's a matter of making sure that the artists that the port is working with values align with the port's. And this is really just an opportunity in this statement for you to speak to that directly, knowing that what the port is hoping for is that your values around the idea of social equity align with theirs. And so that's probably the best way I can advise to approach that. And if there's any other questions with that, of course, you're welcome to put those into the Q&A. And then again, the Portland's art program, which we reviewed earlier. So I won't go through that in detail here. Again, all of this is nestled within the RFQ. So plenty of time to sit with it. And then the selection committee process. So the selection committee, after the due date has passed, there will be an evaluation process. There'll be a group that reviews the RFQs and makes a selection of, no more than 50 that they will then pass on to, oh, wait a minute, I'm getting ahead of myself, actually. This is, yes, oh no, that's right. So they will select no more than 50 from the pool that come in to send on to the full committee. The full committee will use the same criteria that we just reviewed. That's the same criteria that the subcommittee is also going to use. And then from that group of 50, there will be 3 to 5 artists selected to move into the interview phase, which is phase 2 of this process. During the interview phase, you won't really be making a proposal. That's a bit of a misread in that, really. What will happen is we will bring everybody to town at the same time. Everybody will be paid $3,500 plus your travel expenses for this. And it will be a kind of 3-day process. On the first day, you will visit the site and meet with the design team, look at the model, look at more renderings. All of these, the invited artists for this phase will be given access to more architectural drawings, lighting designs, things like that. And so you'll kind of be able to walk through all of that with the design team as well. Then on the second day, it's really for you. Go if this, you might be an artist who's never been to Portland before. It's a chance to go out and see the city a little bit, start to feel the vibe of the place, and really reflect on day 1 and work on a presentation for day 3, which will be an interview where we ask you to make a presentation just on your initial thoughts and reflections on what you've experienced. Kristen, did you have something to add?
Oh, well, I was just going to say that in that sort of interview or conversation with the panel, yeah, we really want to hear what's popping for you. Why are you excited about this opportunity? How do you see it connecting to your work? More so that than any specific idea of what it is that you would want to do.
So there was a question about when the finalists are chosen, how much time for the proposal designs. So again, we were hoping to be able to figure out who will be inviting sometime in January, and then bringing people no later than March. So there'll be that time. And then I just spoke about this sort of 3-day visit process. So that's how we're looking at that. Sure. Yeah, we're good on the rest of these questions so far. Great. Oh, did I? Yes. And so this is really now just a summary of everything that we've been talking about in the last little bit of time. Really emphasizing that the due date there of December 6th, there won't be any kind of grace period for this one. This is a very hard deadline, so make sure, if you've never used the RAC Opportunity Portal in the past, I would go on there. You have to make an account. It's very easy. It's pretty user-friendly, but it does take a minute, and all of these processes are unique, and so it's good to get in there a little bit before 11:30 p.m. on December 6th, just to make sure you're not having any issues logging in.
Right, and Mac,
Um,
there's a question.
uh-huh.
Will artists be introduced to one another in the support of creating a diverse team, those who can offer a localized Pacific Northwest experience?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure I understand the question. The artists will be introduced to each other. You'll be meeting the design team, the construction, that you'll be doing the site visits together. It'll be sort of a cohort basically who are doing all of that. What we were looking at in terms of the phase, the 3-day visit, all of that will be happening together with the artists. So there will be that kind of introduction. And I think maybe you're alluding to, would there be a possibility of a kind of partnership maybe, or a collaboration between the artist? And that's not, I mean, that could happen, but it's not our intention. I think if you were looking for collaborators, you would want to probably have that as part of your proposal coming into it. But that's all of the slides I have presented. And if there are other questions, you can put them into the Q&A part here, and we can address those. I will just put this back up because those question things are fun but dizzying. Another question popping in.
Are views through the artwork important? I would say they're not as important in this location as they are for the glass that is also currently being commissioned. I think it would be a mix. I mean, I don't think you want to block all the light, but I don't know that you literally have to view through the artwork. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah.
And there will be a lot of light in this area because there are big skylights. So it is an option, but I don't think it's a requirement that it does that. But there is a lot of light opportunities there.
And as it is facing west, it will be, light will come directly through here. And so there will be cast shadows and those types of interactions happening too. Yeah, how far down can it go from the ceiling? So it has to, the artwork needs to be at least 15 feet from the ground. So this area, the sort of ceiling height differs. So how far down it goes would differ in different places. And then there's a question about lighting. What about nighttime lighting? Will lighting the artwork be the artist's responsibility? That's a really good question. I don't believe I have a firm answer on that at this time. I think that if the artwork is, this area will have lighting in it already, and then I think what we would do is see how that lighting, that could be part of the design development phase, see how the lighting plan and the artwork design would fit in together. And then I think we could kind of address any specialized lighting we might need at that time.
Right, and I would say if it's integral to the artwork itself, then it is part of the artist's budget. If it's lighting the object, then we'll probably have to negotiate that to some extent. We'll have to figure that out as the situation becomes a little more clear.
About 10 more minutes left. I'm happy to hang out here for a few more as people might have some other questions. Should have brought some music along. Yeah, I think it's a pretty unique and interesting location for this airport, and I think many airports. Yeah, it's going to be a great spot. I'm resisting just bantering to fill in the silence. I think you're on mute, Kristen.
Sorry, I'm reading a question, which is how much room vertically do we have available? And that kind of depends on where you are in that 100 feet. So as you can kind of see on the screen, the ceiling slopes up and sort of opens up even higher. I think, you know, so the 35 feet is the highest spot. So that's 20 feet because you got to be 15 feet above the ground. Yeah, so that's about the zone.
And I'll just add again that it's the north and south areas. So it's both opportunities, same artist team, but they don't have to be, they can be, you know, they will be related because it's made by the same artist team, but they can be very different as well.
Wendy, there's a question in the chat about what are the typical cleaning regimens and schedules for the suspended work already? So the Jacob Hashimoto piece.
So the schedules, it depends by the piece. We haven't had to clean the Hashimoto as of yet because of the way it was designed. It's a very vertical piece, but that's definitely something to really take into consideration, you know, if you are chosen to make a proposal, to think about, you know, and to think about what this opportunity would be, because an airport does require a lot of maintenance and cleaning, and something that we definitely seriously take into consideration. So it would be on a maintenance schedule, but that really depends on what the artwork is and where it is in the terminal too. Some areas are much busier than others. And I'm hoping because of the height and scale of the terminal core expansion, it may, fingers crossed, not be getting as much dust, hair, and skin cells as other areas may actually get, because it is, you know, quite elevated. 15 feet is quite high, and there is a lot of open air in this. So I don't know if I can answer that specifically, and I think it will depend very much on what is chosen for these areas, the maintenance schedule. And the expectation is that the artist or artist team would help us with determining that. I would
just add that in very general terms, as infrequently as possible. So we're definitely going to be trying to look for ways to bring in works that would not be requiring cleaning, you know, on a monthly basis, because that's probably not practical.
Correct. Thank you, Kristen. That's exactly true.
Yeah. No sticky surfaces.
Right. No sticky surfaces. And one of the things about dust too, sometimes is it comes on very evenly a lot of the time. So you don't perceive it for quite a while.
So a couple more questions here. There was on the low end of the ceiling, how much vertical room is it? And I'm not entirely sure at this point. Again, I think once the artists are selected for the interview process, there'll be a lot more detailed drawings that come in. But if you want that answer before you share your RFQ, then I would use the question portal, because then I can forward that onto the port and get that directly sent to you.
And there's another question in here that says, is it possible to include components in the space to make the work responsive or reactive to people moving through, or changes in light and or interactive responsive in some way? I think that's in the realm of possibility.
Yeah, definitely. And then once the artwork is awarded the project, once the artist is awarded the project, who is the interlocutor between the artist and the port? Some of that will be with RAC directly, and then there will be another type of project manager as well with the port. So there will be two people who you'll be able to communicate with directly, and you'll have direct access to Wendy and others as well.
And I mean, ultimately, it'll probably be a very small team, because there will be somebody that gets assigned if there is a permitting issue, and there'll be coordination with the contractors that are on site. So all of those things will, they'll need coordination and meshing. So it'll probably end up being a small team of people.
And then if anybody came into this late, we have been recording this, and we'll be posting the recording of this and the transcript of this to that question and response page that we have shared between this project and also the art class project. So there's a question around the renderings of the ceiling, the slatted ceiling. Can you describe the ceiling regarding the work's attachment supports to the main ceiling and the lower drop ceiling? Or I can go back to those images here. So these Ys are the supports for the ceiling. So that's part of that. It's a wood mass ceiling, and oops, back the wrong way. Which maybe you can see better here again. And if you go to the pdxnext.com website, that actually has a lot more information on the wood and the construction of the ceiling. I'm not sure about the lower drop ceiling. Oh, you mean back? I see what you're probably saying there. I'll go back to that in a second. And then there's a question, how will the artists' teams be funded for materials, lump sum, or something else? Kristen, do you want to answer that?
Yeah. I would say that it'll be lump sum in the sense that you will have a contract amount. I think this is what you're asking, or maybe you're asking about a little earlier phase, but there you will have a contracted amount. It will be divided into chunks that will have benchmarks. So there'll be something that you get like right when you sign the contract, and then there'll be benchmarks that allow you to get additional payments. Does that answer the question? Hopefully. Yeah, great. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and then in terms of the ceiling, you can see it's actually, the ceiling it's like really one large piece in a way, right? It's like really designed in a way to be kind of this continuous ceiling form that extends over this whole area. It's quite the design. And so there isn't a lot of like drop ceiling parts.
And I think most of these Y beams, Mac, I don't know if you can circle one of the Y beams, but
Yeah.
I think in most of those cases, there's a large skylight above those.
Yeah, I think that's.
So there will be a lot of natural light coming in.
Mhm. Yeah, you can see that here, what Kristen's describing.
Yeah.
Well, it is 4 o'clock. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We will go ahead and conclude this. And of course, if you have more questions, use that question portal. You know, don't delay, get in there and start your application today. So thank you, Kristen and Wendy, for being here.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Adela, for doing the live transcripts.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, artists, for joining us.
Yeah.